It's amazing how dirty your fingers are. I want to tidy this up a little bit before I get it ready to pack it up so that when Mindy out in Las Vegas, Nevada opens it up, she'll be like, oh! She probably would be anyway because it looks really good. Oh, those doggone commercials. Skip. Well, like I said in the live chat, as I was getting ready to launch this, this is really going to be a resource more so for people that might view this live stream later video, and they are contemplating how to ship a sewing machine that's in a Bentwood cover case. It really does complicate things quite a bit from a packing standpoint. Even using my proven method, I have to use a number of adaptations to ensure that this is going to make a safe journey all the way out to Mindy in Las Vegas, Nevada. And for this particular machine, because of the container size, I'll just show you the container size real quick. Because of the container size, normally I use USPS for shipping most of my containers like this. This is going to be an 18-gallon tote. And this will accommodate pretty much any machine that I typically am going to be sending out. You know, even the FOFs, the Husqvarnas, and other machines like that will generally fit dimensionally into an 18-gallon tote like this. Is a fair amount of space. I wish when they designed it, they hadn't built this little part here that kind of tucks in. You have to kind of accommodate for that space issue. But all in all, it provides a lot of space. And I'm a overly protective person when it comes to shipping the machines. So when I'm shipping a machine in one of these, I want to have some cushion of space all the way around the machine. So in this instance with the Bentwood cover, I've really got to make some major upgrades. We're going from an 18-gallon to a 34-gallon tote container. And you can see the two kind of next to each other. It almost looks like this is like a baby container here, but it's really quite sizable. But USPS will not ship a container with these dimensions priority mail. The only option they offer is ground, and ground was ridiculously priced because of the dimensions of this container. It was over $200, about the same price as shipping a sewing machine over to the UK or shipping it up to Canada, which I've done multiple times. But for that Bentwood cover to be able to fit in here safely, I'll just grab the top. Just grab the top, and you imagine that it's sitting in here on top of the base. Get it kind of centered, sort of centered. So you can see with this container, if this were sitting on top of the base, there would still be a cushion all the way around it, front and back. Front and back, you're probably looking at about 4 inches, 5 inches almost. On the sides, you're looking at a cushion of probably about 2 inches on either side. And then with it raised up as if it's sitting on the machine, you're still going to have a cushion, a vertical cushion of probably close to 4 to 5 inches. So it's gonna have a float zone around it, along with the packing that I do to ensure that if it gets bumps or bangs along the way out to Nevada, it's not going to be compromised. But it really does require some special accommodation when you're packing a Bentwood cover, and you don't want to cut corners. And I don't recommend, in this instance, using a cardboard box, because cardboard boxes, no matter how sturdy they are, they can still get compromised fairly easily because the material gives. A tote like this is going to have a lot better field of protection around it when you're trying to ship something of this enormity, this size. So we start with the basics like usual. I always want to send the machine so that as soon as the customer gets it out in Nevada, as soon as Mindy gets it, she's able to sit down to it right away. It's unpacked. She doesn't have to thread it. She doesn't have to say, I wonder if I have it threaded correctly. She doesn't have to wonder if there's a full bobbin or not, because there's going to be a full bobbin in there as well for her to be able to jump right into some sewing and to try the machine out. And so the machine leaves with a fresh needle, it leaves with a full bobbin, and it leaves fully threaded, so that it's ease of gliding into it for the customer. They don't have to stress over it. Unpacking it is stressful enough. I promise you, if you've ever gotten one of my machines, it is a marathon experience to try to peel all those layers off, and to be patient enough to do it, because it takes, the average person probably a good hour to get the machine fully unpacked. So what I'm doing right now is I'm using some acid-free painter's tape, tagging down all of the threading points, so that the machine doesn't somehow get unthreaded in the process, or in the process of unpacking it. And acid-free painter's tape is safe for the patina of the machine. It's safe for the chromium pieces as well. And it's a good way just to ensure that your effort of sending the machine ready and prepared doesn't somehow get sidelined or compromised. And I've received machines, y'all have seen them when I've done unboxings. I've received machines where people have, even on Swedish Beauties, it was like, you're kidding me. They would tape the packing material to the machine with black duct tape. They used packing tape. They used masking tape. All of those are horrible choices when it comes to shipping a machine and anchoring that packing material down. You want to use something that can easily be removed, that's not going to leave a sticky residue on the paint or the chromium pieces as well. That's not going to potentially damage the paint. You might remember that one Swedish Beauty that came with all the black, I guess it would be like a duct tape. That might be the one that came from New York, if I remember correctly. Yeah, it came out of New York. And some reason that customer just thought, I've got duct tape, I'm going to use duct tape. But choose very carefully. You don't want to damage the machine, and you certainly, if you're buying a machine, you don't want that person you're buying it from to damage the machine either. You want it to arrive the way it looked when you saw it in the pictures. Okay, one more point to anchor down back here. And also, you always want to double check the hinge parts as well. This is obviously going to go into an oak base, and there's anchor points on the bottom. So it's a good idea to double check those. I've already done that to make sure that they're nice and secure, but you do that by just tilting the machine back, and then use a standard screwdriver to make sure that the anchor point underneath, where it's hinged, right here and right here, that those screws that go into this to pinch it in place haven't worked themselves loose. These are one of those things that are kind of out of sight, out of mind, and folks can forget about it. And especially when you're shipping it, you want to make sure that that machine is well anchored to that base. This is another point over here that can sometimes move around a little bit. You can see me wiggling it. Make sure that that's nice and snug down as well, next to that serial plate. Easier to do when you're using two hands instead of one. And then the other thing you want to do is you want to also anchor that hand crank. This is an original Singer hand crank that's adjacent to the balance wheel. And don't struggle like some people do in saying, well, in order to get the Bentwood cover on, I've got to, get it into a certain position so that it'll slide over. Just loosen up your clutch, and then you can move this as much as you want without affecting the needle, and get it into the right spot. Typically down in this area is probably the best way to tuck it, because then you kind of anchor it in place, and then you can go ahead and lock that clutch in place again. And when Mindy gets it on the other end, all she has to do is, she could just move it like this. That's fine. It'll raise the needle, or she can just disengage the clutch again and then get that hand crank into place. Hold on a second. This is Scott. Hello. Hello, hello. Somebody from North Carolina that calls but doesn't want to talk. It's probably a solicitation. Usually when they first hear the first hello, though, they usually jump on right then and they give you your little spiel. So I'm going to anchor the hand crank in place as well, and probably do that. I really can do it with stretch wrap. I'm probably not going to have to put any painter's tape on there specifically. So I'll just go ahead when I come around with the stretch wrap and I'll anchor that in place so it doesn't move. But I am going to put a little bit of painter's tape over here by this so that this doesn't potentially shift around or move or anything like that in the process. And it doesn't have to be much, just enough to kind of hold that in position. And I'll be anchoring it from underneath anyway, but it's just an added safeguard. If you didn't see the live stream on this hand crank, you'll want to check it out. Sewed off just a wide variety of sew offs on this. Everything from denim, 6 layers of that, protected full grain leather. We went really light and did satin as well. Compressed felt, more protected full grain leather, 2 layers of that, and just general cotton sew offs. And I think we did we did saddle grade leather as well, 2 layers of that. But hand cranks are, if you've never used one, are surprisingly strong, very much like treadle machines. And they are really incredible when it comes to what they're able to sew and the level of ease that they're able to accomplish it in too. So if you're adding to your collection, which most vintage collectors are, consider adding a hand crank to the equation, because it'll really give you a different feeling of sewing. It gives you a different sense of connection with the machine as well, and they're just fun to operate. Plus, if your electricity goes out, you don't have to worry about it. You're off the grid, and you can sew away and not be concerned about power outages either. Or if you take it on the road with you, as some of my customers do, they do RVing and stuff like that. Those RVers love to have hand cranks because they can do it when they're camping or traveling or doing whatever it is that they want to do. And these are the bobbins that I'm including with the machine for Mindy. She's got one in the machine and then 4 additional ones. And these are the original class 66 bobbins that would have been most appropriate to this machine. You notice it's got 4 holes on top. And you have the earlier version of this that's going to have 1 hole. But because this machine is from, I believe, if my memory serves me right, 1935, it's going to be, I'm just double checking. Yep. March 14th, 1935. Because it's from the 1930s, the best bobbin for this machine is going to be the one with 4 holes. It's going to be a little bit of a later model. If you get into the earlier models that are, early 1900s, you might want to consider trying out the single hole ones. And it's just how they interact in that drop-in bobbin space, and how they generate that stitch and flow the thread and everything else. So it's just another thing. You get intimate with your machine. You find out what it likes. You find out what that machine likes, and you accommodate. So you get a better result. You get higher quality stitching and a happier machine. A happy machine is a happy sewist, right? So I've got these 4 that I'm going to be including. I'm also giving Mindy some extra needles to get her going. And I think I talked about this in the live stream. These are all leather needles. She's going to be doing leather sewing with this machine quite a bit. So I've got these Schmetz leather 9014 needles here. And there's also one in the machine already. And then I've got a pack of these Mega Harpoon leather needles. These are size 18, which is the equivalent of a size 110. And this is for hardcore leather sewing. The only thing to take into account is when you're choosing needle sizes for projects, whether it's the 90 on the left or whether it's the 110 on the right, take into account that the larger the shaft is on that needle, the greater the girth of that needle, the more force that's needed to drive it through that leather. It's almost like a pin popping a balloon. If you want to pop a balloon, it's a lot easier to do if you use a tiny little point and a sharp point versus a huge harpoon type thing to pop it. Either one will work, but the level of force you have to use for that pin against the balloon is going to be much less than a larger point that you're going to have to almost kind of push into the balloon and kind of cut it almost to get through it. So just, choose your leather needles carefully and choose the size carefully as well. I always go with Schmetz. That's my thing. They're a proven needle, but just, don't go too big. I think our Texas friends always say, go big or go home. If you go too big on needles, depending on the leather thickness that you're working with, you're going to want to go someplace other than home. You're going to want to go out and probably get a sandwich or something like that to break away and maintain your sanity. And then what I gave on top of those two is I gave Mindy also a mixed pack. And I believe these came from Susie in Minnesota. This gives you a size leather needle all the way down to size 80. It has a couple of 90s, and then it also has a size 100 as well. So this will really give her a wide range of leather needles to choose from, depending on what project she's going to take on first, and give her greater flexibility. So I'll add those in with the bobbins as well. And then this will all get packed in with the machine. And I don't know how long I'm going to run this live stream, to be honest with you. I just wanted to at least show some of the introductory steps, the most critical steps that someone that's looking to try to ship a sewing machine in a Bentwood cover has at least some general guidelines on what to do, because it is a little bit more of a trickier process when you're doing it. And you might remember, maybe you don't, but I had done a 12K for Trish that is out of Virginia. And that 12K had a different base, but it had a base nonetheless. And it had taken a bad fall, that 12K that she bought from Alex Askeroff in the UK. And some of these joining tongue and groove points along here on the edges, over time had come apart. The glue basically dries up on these bases. They use a combination of wooden dowels and glue. And you really have to watch these bases carefully, especially the ones where you're going to be lifting them up with like a cover of some sort, like the 12K has, or the Bentwood cover for this 66K. So, you just want to periodically pull on those edges, make sure there's nothing loose, as I've already done. And just keep an eye on that, because eventually that glue will dry up. It'll lose its grip on there. And these joining parts that are kind of tongue and groove together can come loose like they did on Trish's machine. And then that machine can take a horrible fall and get damaged. And some of you that follow me real closely probably saw on Facebook where I was, you saw on Facebook where I was doing a repair of that base for Trish for her 12K. And I was using a combination of dowels. I was drilling into the wood so that the glue would kind of seep in there and just add that bonding factor more on that repair so it wouldn't come loose again on her. I think I have a quick text here. Let's see what we got going on. Oh, totally unrelated to the live stream. Just a friend of mine from Illinois saying hello. So I love getting text messages from folks from all over the place, all around the U.S. and all around the world, just kind of saying, hey, how you doing? What's going on? That's part of the beauty of the VSM family, the community, even outside of the Cow Country family, is we have people around the world with. So at this point, we've done I think a decent job. We've already checked the hinges on this base. We've anchored down the critical points on the machine to make sure that our effort to send it threaded doesn't get compromised. We've even anchored down our little piece right over here that kind of holds that bed from tilting up. We've accounted for the position of our handle over here for the hand crank. And we're going to anchor that down with stretch wrap when we come around. But before we do any of that, we need to focus on reinforcing this base. This base, even though it's going to be packed well, we want to really reinforce the joining points of this base so that the pressure of transport, tipping, pitching, dropping, all the other things that they're going to do to this huge container, they're going to see this 34-gallon container and just go, who is the knucklehead that decided to send this? I think I'm going to end up using UPS on it. Those UPS people are not going to be happy to see this container. It is just, it's just huge if you look at it comparatively with an 18-gallon container. So they're not going to be happy to see that container. So we're going to try to pat our deck a little bit and make sure that their hostility and frustration or whatever it is doesn't take a toll on Mindy's 1935 66K. So what I do first of all is kind of bring it around here, kind of lean off the workbench a little bit. And what I'm doing by doing that is I want to make sure that the machine itself, the machine head, is anchored to the base. And I've got to be conscious of, clearance factors so that the Bentwood cover will still go on. It'll still clear properly. But I anchor it to the base so that it's not going to break free of the base, and then the machine head could get damaged, or the hand crank could get damaged. So we just apply, some basic anchoring with a stretch wrap. The stretch wrap I use is 80 gauge. 80 gauge is a nice, strong. It's not the strongest, but it's definitely one of the stronger stretch wraps that you can use, and it's going to give you a lot of stability in the packing process. So that's why I use it. So I kind of go around here. Again, be conscious of the hinging point, but also be conscious of clearance as well. So I kind of go around here a couple times. And I pull it nice and tight, Just kind of work it around. And again, the real benefit of what I'm trying to do here with this live stream is really going to be even of greater benefit to folks as far as watching it later as a video. This will be all of the live streams are converted to videos, so they're readily available to whoever wants to view them. And if they search the channel underneath the playlist of how to pack a vintage sewing machine, they're going to see this particular one that we're doing right now listed as how to pack a Singer 66K hand crank in a Bentwood cover. And if that's what they're facing, they can then look at that specific video and they can see what technique I used. Well, my technique is proven, and it's allowed machines to travel around the globe and arrive undamaged. I certainly would not be so presumptuous as to think that it's as good as it can be. We can always improve on things, right? So that would be my goal, is someone would say, wow, I love your packing method. Have you thought about doing this on top of it? And then I can say, no, I never thought of that. So we go around I went around probably about 4 or 5 times. This stuff is strong enough. You can't just rip it very easily. And then what I always do, I talk about this all the time. What I do then is you want to anchor down this stretch wrap. Stretch wrap by itself is no good. So what you want to do now is anchor down this stretch wrap using packing tape, and you go around it about 2 to 3 times to make sure that it's nice and secure. And what we've done by this simple little act is we pulled these seams together really, really hard with this 80 gauge stretch wrap to give greater stability and not allow that wood to potentially flex and loosen the bond of that glue on this base so that it could be compromised. And I know a lot of people, when they ship machines in bases, even without Bentwood covers, they'll focus on the machine, but they don't focus on the foundation of the machine, which is the base. So I always start with the foundation first and say, what do we need to do to make this foundation as secure and stable and immovable as possible. Movement causes damage. That's why we have seat belts, right? We have seat belts in the car, and they keep us from going too far forward in an accident. They restrain us, and that lack of movement has been proven to protect us more from getting injured. It lessens the injury by not allowing us to have too much movement and hitting the steering wheel or the windshield or something like that. In a different way, lacking or taking away movement possibility from the base is going to lessen the possibility of this base being compromised and damaged in shipment. And I have no idea how far it is from Oconto, Wisconsin to Las Vegas. If someone that's in the live stream for fun wants to Google, distance from Las Vegas to Oconto, Wisconsin, and type it in the live chat so that everyone knows, that would be totally cool. But I'm guessing it's over 1,000 miles. You can imagine going through all those UPS channels, how many hands, how many trucks, how many hard decks and piers, cement piers as they're moving the containers in and out and everything like that. It's going to take a beating. So we're going to try to protect it as well as we can. So I'm going to go around with it a little bit of packing tape. And I use a pretty heavy packing tape as well. Just make sure it doesn't get on the machine or on the case. Kind of stay within the boundaries of that stretch wrap. And you don't need a ton of this because really all it's doing is anchoring down that stretch wrap. But I usually go around about 2 times, 3 times, something like that. So we protected a little bit of the case right now, our foundation. I'm going to swing the machine around now. We'll do the other side. And we'll have to kind of this hand crank a little bit. Actually, what I'll probably do temporarily after getting it into just the position I wanted to get it into is I'll loosen that clutch. I'll just rotate this up temporarily, get it out of the way. And we can slide that stretch wrap a little bit more easily into there, because right here is the most delicate part on this side of the base. You can see right here where they've got it grooved together, where it allows for this little compartment. Right here is a very, very vulnerable spot where these pieces come together. So we want to make sure that this section all the way over to here is where we get that stretch wrap over to. Plus, it's going to reinforce what we've done with the painter's tape right here to make sure that this doesn't turn. Even though it's going to be immobilized and it won't really be able to move much, we want to try to safeguard it as much as we can. So I think I'll move the camera over there now, give you a little bit of a different angle. So I'm just going to carefully slide this out again, kind of over the edge a little bit. And I certainly realize this takes more time. It takes even more time with me kind of talking through it instead of just doing it. But if it proves to be a valuable resource to someone and it ends up allowing their Bentwood cover to arrive without damage, then it's well worth it. I'm going to kind of come around here. Whoops. This is a little bit of a workout when you're doing packing like this. So I'm going to shut the heater off. It's been in the 30s here. If you don't watch Wisconsin weather, which you might not, it's been in the 30s here. And we actually have a prediction that we might get snow today, the end of April, going into May. We're supposed to get some snow probably right about now. Right about now, it should be starting to come down. So especially with my workshop being on the lower level, it gets chilly down here. But then when I start doing this little workout, it right away you warm up quite a bit. You know what I mean? Okay, so I'm going to get that. Once you get it tucked in a little bit, it makes it a little bit easier. You know what I mean? So I'm going to kind of hold the base a little bit because I'm going to be pulling on this 80 gauge stretch wrap with quite a bit of force. I really want to make sure that this is anchored down well. Now I'm going to reinforce it with packing tape. Oh, that 80 gauge. I wouldn't trade it out for anything, but boy, I'll tell you one, you got to really pull on that with your fingers to try to break its grip on there. And again, just be mindful as you're putting this into position that you're not catching the veneer of the base, that beautiful oak base, and that you're also staying clear of the machine as well. You don't want to be getting this tape on the machine. Now you might say, isn't that enough? Haven't we been focusing on the base enough? Can't we move on from the base? We've got one more thing to do. And again, I always say it's better to be, to hope for the best than to underplan and discover that you didn't do enough and the machine ends up getting compromised or damaged in some way. So I'm just locking that clutch back in place again now because we're able to kind of wiggle around that a little bit. And I really don't need to, but you know what I might do, because I'm kind of looking at it now, it kind of lines up very nicely. And this is again where my method is pretty static. I use the same approach pretty much each time, but I do tweak things a little bit. And as I'm looking at this with the hand crank, I'm thinking, even though I'm going to be anchoring it down with stretch wrap eventually, why don't I add just a little bit of painter's tape on this balance on this hand crank? Add just a little bit of tape on this hand crank so that when Mindy pulls the covering off, the onion layers, as I like to call them, when she pulls the onion layers off, this hand crank doesn't somehow pop out or do something else weird where she could, catch it or damage it in some way. So this will just add a little extra protection to make sure that hand crank doesn't get caught in the unpacking process. Because when folks are unpacking, they get really excited. They get really, really excited, and they can get a little bit anxious sometimes. I'm just going to add one more little cross. You kind of see what I did over here. And again, this tape is going to come off of that hand crank handle very, very easily. Now we kind of immobilized this handle, and we've anchored it to this portion that we already put on there to hold these sides of the oak base together. But now what about these edges over here? We've got edges right here that are joining points right there. And you can actually see there's a little bit of a separation right there. It's nice and sturdy, but you can see how the little gap points can start, as that wood shrinks. So we have to also pull that in as well. Same thing on this end over here and over here. So there's a little gap point over there as well. And it's partly because you can imagine as someone is working with a machine like this, when they do loosen this part over here to tilt it back to service the bottom, the greater part of the weight is pushed against these hinges, and the hinges are mounted to this rear portion of the base. So it puts a little bit of extra stress on these joints right here. Joints right there, and joints there, and there, and of course there. And they're nice and sturdy right now, but that's why I say keep an eye on them if you've got a base, because that glue will eventually shrink. It'll dry up, and those joints, if they take a hard impact or something like that, can be compromised. Kind of like with Trisha's 12K. So I'm just going to pick it up like this. And now we're going to do a little little bit of a reinforcement to these edges along here, and that's real simple. It doesn't take a lot of effort. It doesn't take a lot of effort at all. It's going to take our 80 gauge stretch wrap. Let's see here. Check that camera angle. I think that's pretty good. We'll take our 80 gauge stretch wrap and we'll go all the way around the base of the machine. And one thing I should probably do real quick, just to see that nothing I've done, because I get a little bit ambitious sometimes with the amount of stretch wrap and then the packing tape on top of it. I should probably make sure real quick that that Bentwood cover is still going to go over the top of this and clear where it needs to clear. It should be fine, but we'll just double check real quick. Oh yeah, we're good. We're no problem. I'll just use the key and just make sure that it's going to go all the way down. It does nicely. And you can see if I kind of lift it up, I've got it anchored, so I know that it's anchored properly. See? So our clearance, you have to be mindful of clearance tolerances, just like you are when you've seen me pack Swedish Beauties before. And those fit in a case that doesn't have a lot of clearance on the sides or other places. So whenever you're packing something, you know, don't just keep driving forward. Do little intermittent checks to make sure that that cover is going to be able to clear over that, especially if you got stretch wrap or something like that that has a little bit of a pitch to it, and it might interfere with that cover, because usually when those covers go on, there's not a lot of clearance. So you just don't want to get overly ambitious and get to a certain stage and all of a sudden discover that you're going to try to put the two pieces together and they won't fit. Has that ever happened to me? Yep, it has. It has happened to me before, for sure. So even if you've done as many packing jobs as you can imagine that I've done, if you get distracted, if you're trying to manage multiple things, you're kind of like a little bit ago, the phone rang and I broke away for a second and answered that. I thought it might be somebody from North Carolina calling in about the live stream, but certainly I don't think it was, because they didn't answer. But you know, just stay focused on the task and pause periodically to make sure that you're still setting yourself up for success. Okay, blah blah blah. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take this stretch wrap, 80 gauge stretch wrap. Let me go with my smaller one. We'll go with this a little bit easier to manage. We're going to start just anywhere you want to start. And we're going to go right about here, kind of work our way all the way around. And again, just keep it low so that it doesn't interfere with the lid. We don't want it to be sticking up too far and interfere with the lid. I thought I had a grip on that, but it just slipped away from me. This is take two going around here. All right, let's give this a try again here. I'll hold on to it a little bit tighter this time. There, I think I got her. And again, what I'm doing when I'm coming around here is I'm actually pulling this 80 gauge stretch wrap hard enough that I'm actually stretching it a little bit. And that's not an easy thing. This stuff is hardcore. It's real heavy duty stuff. If you look up the different gauges of stretch wrap, again, it's not the strongest, but it certainly is up there. So I'm pulling around this with a lot of force. So we're forcing those joints on the corners together so that they have more stability, kind of like giving them a little seat belt, so that when they get banged around in the shipping process, they're less likely to be compromised. I think that's a Facebook notification. I think so. Just turn the phone on real quick and make sure it's not someone's not texting. Yeah, that's a Facebook notification. I'm starting to learn the notification sounds, but as soon as you learn them, they'll probably change something. So I've gone around the base. I didn't count, probably 3 to 4 times. Go around just a few more times. And again, if you do this, pull it with a lot of force. Pull it with a lot of force. If you go with a lighter gauge stretch wrap like I used to use, when I would be packing a machine sometimes, I would keep breaking it and breaking it and breaking it all over and over again. This stuff, I can put a lot of force against it. Occasionally I break it, but not usually. So you just saw me give that a little bit of a tug. Kind of a little bit of a tug. A little bit of a tug. And we're going to stop right about there. And this, I don't know if all the stretch wrap is the same, but this stretch wrap does a pretty good job of sticking to itself. That way you don't all of a sudden have like a slinky experience where you get done and you let go of it for a second, and all of a sudden it springs loose, which is pretty frustrating. And now you can pretty much guess what we're going to do next. We're going to go around the base now very carefully with some packing tape to anchor down this stretch wrap. And at this point, we've got anchor points here pulling the base in from front to back. We've got anchor all the way around the base, pulling it in from all sides to give those joints as much strength and stability as possible. So if the container takes a big hit, it doesn't cause those joints to be compromised. So that when Mindy goes to lift it up, that machine, kind of like with Trish's 12K out in Virginia, all of a sudden this 66K goes zoom and hits the ground. That does not make for a happy customer out in Las Vegas. Mindy's a sweetheart, but she'll probably send Elvis after me if I did something like that to her. So we're going to try to do our best to make sure that it has a safe journey and that there's no compromising of any parts of it. So I'm just going to add that right to there, right over the stretch wrap. Got to kind of give myself a little bit of driving space here. Work our way around. And there are those, I've said this on a recent reel, there are those people that are skeptical, or maybe they're just jealous because we try to do it right at Cow Country, but they'll look at something like this and they'll go, "Are you serious? You really want me to go to that extent of protecting the machine? You know how long that's going to take?" Well, here's what I'll say to those skeptics or those doubters or those haters or whatever you want to call them. How long will you spend on the phone with your customer, or how long will you spend on the phone with claims, trying to make an insurance claim for a damaged sewing machine or a base that gets damaged in transport? I would argue you're going to spend just as much time in the claim process and the put out the fires process with your customer, because they were so excited to get that 66K and it got out to Las Vegas and the base has been busted. It's come apart. The machine broke loose from the base because the base was compromised. And now all of a sudden you've got a damaged base, you got a damaged machine. And of course, when it's bouncing around inside of there, it's going to probably punch right through the Bentwood cover. So you've got a damaged Bentwood cover as well. How much time are you going to spend trying to mitigate all of that instead of trying to pack it right to begin with, so that you end up with a very happy customer? And Mindy's not a first-time customer out in Las Vegas. She got a Swedish Beauty from me a number of years ago, was so happy that when this popped up on that live stream where I was offering it for sale, some of you that follow, you already know that this is true. Even before I sewed the first stitch on this, even before I put anything underneath the presser foot, she had already sent me a text saying, "I want it," because anything that comes out of the workshop is going to be top shelf. So okay, so we made 2 loops around it with this heavy packing tape. That's going to be more than enough to hold that stretch wrap in place. It's going to be more than enough to hold that in place. And I was just me, I know, but I just kind of press it down a little bit, make sure that we've got really, really good adhesion to the base. So what have we done right now through all this effort? We've taken this base and we've gone, love that sound effect, don't you? We pushed it in from here. We pulled it in from all sides to hold it rigid. so that as this heavy 66K is bobbing and swaying a little bit, it's not going to be stressing these joints on the back that already has some stress evidence because of the weight being tilt back with the machine. And then what we do finally, actually, we've already done it. I was going to say what we do finally is we join these two together, but by me doing these first and then doing this second, we've already gone over the top of these with tape. So this is all anchored as one unit. So all of those weak points on all sides of the base are all being sucked in right now by that stretch wrap and being reinforced by that packing tape. I hope that makes sense why we do it. It takes more time, but in the end, it's going to give us a lot more confidence, going to give me a lot more confidence that as they beat this thing up, going, across from Oconto to Las Vegas, that it's not going to get compromised. So let's see, what else? Got these sew-offs. I'll actually put these with a book. I usually give a nice sewing book. I haven't picked it out for Mindy yet. I will. And then I'll put these on top of the sewing book. I'll write a little nice thing in there to her, and I'll go over that with stretch wrap and anchor to this to the front of the book, along with the extra needles and the bobbins as well. And these will get bubble wrapped as well, just so that the metal is protected and the needles are protected as well. And I won't put those in the harp space of the machine. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add a little bit of extra padding to the vulnerable spots of the machine. The vulnerable spots is the upper tension, the bobbin winding assembly, and that should pretty much about do it on this machine. All the rest is going to be strong enough. We don't need to be overly concerned about it. So I'm going to wrap real quick, cut a couple little squares. We'll add extra padding to the upper tension. You know what? I'll throw some extra padding on the stitch length controller as well, even though it's all metal. We'll just tuck a little bit of extra protection on there. Maybe we'll cut a bigger piece and cover the two of these at the same time. Then we'll go over that with stretch wrap, and then we'll go over the top of the stretch wrap with packing tape. And we'll periodically just double check that lid is still going to be able to clear over the top of the machine with whatever we're doing, so that we don't encroach on the clearance factor of that lid being able to go over the top of it. All right, I think that makes sense, hopefully. And I didn't plan on doing it because I said in the live chat at the very beginning that I wouldn't really be interacting with all of you, but I got to say hello to some folks real quick. You know what I mean? I got to say hello to folks real quick. So I'm going to say good morning real quick to Al Koss. Al was the first one in the live stream today, so he gets brownie points. And Renee popped in as well to say good morning. Renee is a local gal. Who else? Tadal. We've got Tadal from Germany, from Deutschland. Guten Tag, Tadal. Wie geht's? And let's see, anyone else? I don't think so. And I didn't expect a big audience. I didn't know if anyone, that's everybody that's in the live chat. I didn't know if anyone would actually be jumping on. Again, I'm doing this more as a future resource to folks that are going to watch this as a video as they're contemplating how in heaven's name do I pack a Bentwood cover? How do you do that? So I'm trying to give them a good foundation of understanding of what to do. So I will grab some bubble wrap and then we'll continue the process. And I'll just show you for fun. Of course, I'm going to include one of these as well. And I might also grab Mindy a hat. So as she's walking around I don't know if Mindy visits casinos. I mean, when you're out in Las Vegas, you just assume that everyone that lives in Las Vegas, they go to the casinos, right? But maybe it's like a lot of other places when something is right there, you just don't do it. You're not a tourist, you live there and it's not a big deal. So, but if she does end up going to the casinos, I'll make sure I include one of the cow country hats as well, for her and her husband, so that they can walk around Las Vegas advertising cow country for us, which would be kind of fun. So And I didn't look. I should look at the live chat real quick. I don't know if anyone did distance or not. Let's see here. I'm just curious about distance. So no one, what? No, Al did it. Al did it. Thank you, Al. Thanks, Al, for doing that. I just saw Al Costa done it. Holy mackerel! It's almost 2,000 miles out to Las Vegas. I said it's got to be at least 1,000 miles out to Las Vegas, but it's Al did the research for us, Al Costa, and came up with 1,800 plus miles. So it's almost Mindy's machine is going to be traveling almost 2,000 miles. That's half the distance of sending something over to the UK. That's like 50% of the way to the UK. That's a big trip. That's a real big trip. So that's why we, even before I understood that it was almost 2,000 miles, that's why we do this sort of thing to give greater stability to that base so that it can arrive safely. But right now we're going to be focusing on targeting some of the more delicate parts of the machine. And I'll go ahead and pull off a little square of this bubble wrap. And there's different types of bubble wrap. This is what I get. That's what I get. I like the little bubbles because they're like little mini airbags. Other people have used bubble wrap to send machines to the workshop, and they've got the bigger bubbles. There's nothing wrong with those, but I like these just because there's multiple little, in a square inch, for example, there's probably about 10 to 12 of these little mini airbags to provide, I would argue, a higher level of protection. What I do is I just kind of fold it in half, 2 layers because it's going to be inside of the Bentwood cover. Really protecting these sensitive areas is anticipating the worst case scenario, where there's a circus in town, because Las Vegas is a place of entertainment, right? There's a circus in town and they've got this huge elephant near the UPS shipping center. I don't know why the elephant's there. I have no idea. I'm trying to find out, but they've got this huge elephant right there, and the elephant sits on top of or steps on or whatever, and the container is crushed. The Bentwood cover is crushed, but at least we've got enough retention. That's semi-protected. I shouldn't have used an elephant. That's like too extreme, but you never know out in Las Vegas, right? You never know in Las Vegas. I hope an elephant doesn't sit on this. My packing method is good, but it's never been tested against an elephant before. I hope it isn't. I hope it isn't tested by an elephant. I think I'll cut that one more time. And I'm not using my Guttenheim scissors to cut this stuff. There's no way. And if you didn't know it, I should have mentioned this, and I didn't mention it. And maybe I can put the link in the live chat real quick. But I made an offer yesterday at the unboxing for that FOF 332 that came out of Texas. If you didn't know that, I did today I'm showing you how to pack a machine. Yesterday on the same workbench, I unpacked a machine from Texas. And as we were unpacking it, I went through a number of different phases and steps in trying to show folks, how to safely unpack it using the appropriate scissors when you're unpacking something like this. It's going to kind of point away from the machine as you're cutting through. But as you're going through the different phases of packing or unpacking, it's all about taking your time. It's all about taking your time and not being anxious. So I've got 2 layers. I'm going to fold it one more time to 4 layers. I think I wanted to share something different. I just totally lost my train of thought. Maybe I'll remember what I was going to say, but kind of difficult when you're packing and talking, although I can chew gum and talk. So I've got 4 layers of this now. I'm going to go ahead and tuck it over this, just make sure it's going to cover that upper tension adequately. Again, this is pretty delicate metal, upper tension, so we're just adding a little bit extra protection. But again, this is only going to benefit us directly if in a catastrophic situation where that Bentwood cover was compromised and then the machine was vulnerable, because the Bentwood cover provides a little bit of protection, doesn't it? So that'll work fine for that. We'll cut another piece a little bit bigger that'll cover the stitch length controller and also provide protection for the bobbin winding assembly as well. Yeah, it was only this morning. I was all geared up. I already had this sitting on the workbench, and I was all geared up to get this packed up and get this shipped out today to Las Vegas. And I thought, why don't I document it? Because I don't remember. I think it was Al said in the live chat just a second ago. Well, I know what else I was going to share. Doggone it, my brain is just all over the place. Hold on a second. I was going to mention these. That's what I was going to mention. I was going to mention these Guggenheim scissors, and the fact that during the live stream yesterday when I was doing the unboxing, I have an extra pair of these still sealed in the box. And I said to folks, if you're willing to, I said, Google's a big deal. Google is a big deal. And if you're willing to write a review and write in the description of this live stream, right into the description of this live stream, there is a link that you can click on. And then it takes you directly. You obviously have to have a Google account to post something as far as a Google review, which most everybody has a Google account. And you click that link, you go there, you write up whatever you want to write up about Cow Country or about, what I do with vintage sewing machines. Hopefully it's a positive review. I would hope so. And then what I'm going to do on Saturday morning, this Saturday morning, I'm planning on presenting that Bernina 125. That Bernina 125, I'll just show you real quick on the other workbench. I'm going through the final phases of that machine right now. And the cool thing about that 125 is this machine right here. The cool thing about this 125 is it was the very first free arm portable zigzag sewing machine in the world. It was the first free arm zigzag portable machine in the world that was ever made, right around 1943. And so it's kind of monumental to be able to present a machine like this. And there was a local person that heard about it, and they scooped it up straight away. So it's already sold. But I'm going to be presenting this machine on Saturday. And when I do that, anyone that's written a review between yesterday, whatever yesterday was, let me look at the calendar real quick. So anyone that writes a review between yesterday, tax day, April 18th, I guess it was. Yeah, yesterday was April 18th, I think. Today's the 19th. The 18th of April, Saturday, the 22nd of April. Between the 18th of April to 22nd of April, anyone that writes a review, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put their name like in a little hat or whatever to draw their name out, and whoever's name gets drawn out will win this pair of Guggenheim scissors. They're a value of around $50. So I'll mail them anywhere in the world. So if someone ends up writing a review from who knows, Germany, Holland, wherever, and they post it between yesterday and Saturday, before the live stream starts, then their name could get pulled out and they could win these scissors. That's what I wanted to say, and I was just totally went blank as what I wanted to mention. And also I've got, I think, 3 of these that I'm going to be giving away on Saturday as well. I gave one away yesterday, and what someone did to win them is they ended up writing a review on Google as well, which was kind of cool. Yeah. So on Saturday, there's all kinds of things that you could potentially win if you like winning things. If you like getting things for free, which most people do, you could either potentially win some double I Schmetz needles. They're the new needles that are kind of, they're trying to bump out the needles, bump those to the side and say, use a double I needle instead of a twin needle. There's advantages and disadvantages to both. Or you could potentially win those Guggenheim scissors, which I'll tell you one thing, I am a cheerleader for these. They're really, really outstanding scissors. Outstanding scissors. I don't know if anyone's already gotten a pair, but if you get them, you won't be disappointed. They come with a lifetime warranty. And also the other cool thing is, along with a lifetime warranty, if you get them and for whatever reason you don't like them, any reason at all, you just contact the company and they'll let you keep the scissors and refund your money. So, I mean, that's how confident they are that people are going to love their scissors. All right, back to what we're doing over here. Yeah, that's not a bad shot, so you can kind of see the front of the machine. So I'm just going to take these 2 layers of bubble wrap and see if I can fold them over like this. We'll get 4 layers like we did on the other side. It's kind of weird. It's sometimes hard to tell which side the bubbles are on. Isn't that crazy? I'm going to fold it like this so we get a longer piece like this. Just kind of check it against this area right here, which is a little bit more sensitive. Again, arguably, this is a little bit overkill because this is only going to benefit us in the most extreme situation where that elephant sits on the container and damages the Bentwood cover so that the machine all of a sudden is vulnerable. But we're going to do it anyway. I'd rather do it and add just a little bit more protection. Again, like I always say, you hope for the best. You hope for the best when you're packing a vintage sewing machine, but you prepare for the worst. Hope for the best and prepare for the worst. So those are the only 2 areas that as I'm looking at the machine very carefully. The upper tension, I'm concerned about adding a little bit of extra protection, bobbin winding assembly along with the stitch length controller. So we're going to kind of tuck these into place, and now we'll begin stretch wrapping the machine to protect the machine, just the patina and everything else, kind of safeguard it. Okay, so let me do this. I'll go with that smaller one again. It's a little bit easier to manage. I'm going to start, and you'll notice I didn't specifically mention it, but I've mentioned it before. You'll notice that whenever you're shipping a machine, or even when you're storing a machine and you're not using it, always make sure that needle bar is down into the material so that needle can't get bumped. Or like when you saw at the very beginning, I was doing a little bit of a polish job on the machine just to give it even better luster. So when Mindy gets it out in Las Vegas, she takes that cover off. She's going to have her sunglasses on because it's just bright and beautiful. It really is a lovely machine. I think you probably agree. Lovely, lovely machine. But, the whole thing is when you're trying to get a machine like this ready to ship, it's just taking every precaution so that if you've got a trip that ends up being without a hitch, no problems, that's all well and good. But you could also have something catastrophic happen. You just never know. You never know. Okay, I'm just going to look at this real quick. Okay, so our needle is down in the material. We've got all the anchor points off in place. We've anchored the hand crank as well. We've gone ahead and reinforced the base. We're not going to be storing anything in the harp area. This is the harp area right here. You didn't know it. If you're new to vintage sewing machines or whatever, the harp area is from the needle bar. Wait, let me move that. The harp space is from the needle bar to the pillar, from the bed to the top of the arm. That little square is called your harp space. That's your working space where you can rotate material and stuff like that. It's really critical for any sewing machine as far as being able to do projects and stuff. Let me set that over here now. I think that'll be okay. Yeah, you can still see it. Okay. Probably should drink some more water. I'm feeling a little lightheaded today. All right. So I'm just going to start the process. I'll start kind of low. So I'm going to double check just one more time. Double check one more time that my presser foot screw is nice and snug. Make sure my needle clamp screw is nice and snug as well, so that nothing goes south as Mindy is trying to crank off her first stitches with this machine. Start over right about there. Get this going a little bit. Just beginning the process of starting to cocoon it in a little bit. And also as I come around this edge, we put that, excuse me, we put that painter's tape, put that little piece of painter's tape on the hand crank anyway. But now as we're coming around with the stretch wrap, that's going to be pulling that hand crank handle in as well to hold it in place so that it's not moved in any way. So once we get a start on this, now I can move my first extra padding into place, put it over that upper tension, kind of come around with that stretch wrap a little bit, get that anchored into place. Now we'll add our larger section here to go over the top of the bobbin winding assembly and the stitch length controller. Again, this is a little bit overkill because it's not going to benefit us directly unless the worst case scenario of that bentwood cover getting catastrophically damaged. Then this will add a little bit more protection to the sewing machine. That is the mystical sound of the air compressor. I've had that go for a couple times while people were in the workshop, and it's a good thing I know CPR, because when you're right here next to it and it goes off, it's like, it's horrible. It's horrible. So again, we're mindful as we're doing this. We should be in great shape, but we're mindful that we're not going to make it too girthy, too thick, so that we can still have that bentwood cover clear it fine. It should be fine. Plenty of room. Now what I'm doing is kind of going over the top a little bit, and I'm going to be closing off that top and anchoring down that thread on top as well. It's not bad. I'm doing this one-handed. I could win the circus out in Las Vegas. I'll let Mindy know that I'm available for circus if they have the need for somebody that can stretch wrap and pack things real well. Probably not. I don't think there's a job opportunity for that. Probably not. All right, I'll set that back down. Oh, see that? Even with that, it just kind of slipped right off the edge. All right, let me give that a quick cut. Got a little bit cocky, and then see that? A little bit of humility there. Doggone it. You got it around that edge. Let's try that from this direction. It might be a little bit easier. Okay, so all I did really is I just kind of cocooned the machine in a little bit. Just, add a little bit of extra protection to the paint patina, anchor down the hand crank a little bit more. And then what I'll do now is I'll go around this with some packing tape just to kind of anchor it down. And then we'll put I'll check the clearance from the sides, the front and the back. Well, we have lots of room on the back. That won't be a problem. On the front, we're going to be a little bit tighter. You kind of look at it from this angle. We'll have to be real conscious of how much bubble wrap I put on here to push it out so that lid will still clear as we slide it over. And that's, again, that rule of you kind of pause a little bit so you're setting yourself up for success, and you're not going to all of a sudden discover that you built this beautiful cocoon fortress and now the bentwood cover won't slide over it. There's not enough clearance. So we'll just kind of go around this a little bit, kind of anchor it down a little bit. And again, just kind of watch. Should be fine, but just watch that you're not making contact with the paint or the chromium pieces or anything like that. We have to reinforce the top as well. And one little more piece there. So across the crown of here, we're just adding a little bit more tape to make sure that this is also that stretch wrap is anchored down across the top of here as well, because that's kind of our dome to keep the machine clean and to, just to protect that paint a little bit more. And my method is kind of a Braille approach. As you pack something like this, you want to make sure that you've covered all of that stretch wrap so that it's anchored down properly. Just use your fingers. Your fingers are very sensitive, and you can feel the difference between the smooth and slickery surface of the packing tape and the rougher, more textured surface of the stretch wrap. Right there, I've got a section right here on the front that is not covered by tape. So I'm going to put a little piece there to anchor that down as well. So we've done a lot of work already, and we don't even have the machine even close to being fully packed yet. We've anchored down the base to start from front to back by putting that strapping points across like this on both ends. Then we came all the way around the base to pull those seams in nice and tight. We then anchored down, we obviously added the tag points as far as the threading in the machine underneath all of this. We tagged down the hand crank as well. We also anchored it over here to hold this so that this can't tilt back or move in any way. It keeps it anchored securely to the base. And now we've gone over the top to seal the head of the machine off with stretch wrap and also packing tape. So I think we've done a really good job so far. What we're going to do next now is we're going to do a little pause point and just make sure that that lid is going to be able to clear that adequately. And then we'll know maybe how much clearance we have with regard to bubble wrap, how much bubble wrap we can put on. So we're good to go. We're doing a great job so far. We've got plenty of clearance to work with. But now we have to add the trickier part, and that is add that bubble wrap. And the bubble wrap is obviously a lot bulkier. It's going to stick out more. Lots of space here. Lots of space on the back. Not a lot of space on the hand crank side either. We've got to really be mindful of that. And then we're also a little bit snug on the front. So I'm envisioning, having done this before about 100 times at least, I'm going to probably go with 3 layers of bubble wrap. And then once we put that bubble wrap on, we're going to be sucking it in with the stretch wrap. So it'll be a little bit puffy, and then we'll pull it in tight to the body of the machine. Whenever you're packing, you always want to be pulling all of that material together as a single unit, kind of sucking it into the machine. So that should give us enough clearance, even in the tighter spaces here and then on the right side of the machine, as long as we use that 80 gauge stretch wrap appropriately. Okay, so let's see here. That's going to be about 2 times around. We might have to add a little bit more. And again, my method is I always put the bubbles facing out. Little mini shock absorbers. I think I may have pulled too much off. Okay, so I'm going to get that over there. Anchor down this side over by the hand crank. And then we'll start walking this around the machine. And again, if anyone has any questions or comments or whatever, I'm not focused, obviously, on the live chat very much. Just give me a call, send me a text. The number, most people know my number by heart, but it's 920-454-0393. 920-454-0393. And that way you can get my attention. I'll be glad. You're not going to be an interruption. You know, I would love to answer the question or respond to the comment or whatever if you've got it. And that's going to be the best way to get my attention probably. As you're working the bubble wrap around, kind of pull it in a little bit snug. Well, that's pretty good. I just eyeballed that. And we got all the way around the machine with the 3 layers that we were aiming for. That's a pretty good guess. But you do it enough times, it gets a little bit easier. So now we got the bubble wrap on. Now we're going to go around with the stretch wrap, kind of tuck it in there, suck it in against the machine. And then we'll do our lid test to make sure that we haven't gained too much weight, which happens in the wintertime, doesn't it? Make sure we haven't gained too much weight and we can still clear that Bentwood cover lid. And I've had people over the years, I introduced this packing method many, many, many years ago. I've had people over the years that have contacted me, and it's almost like a confessional. They'll contact me and they'll first of all tell me, love your videos, keep the content coming, love the the enthusiasm and the fun and the energy and all that. And they'll do the blah, blah, blah thing. But I know there's something coming. And there's one person in particular from Minnesota that kind of started out their note to me that way. And then they said, I've got to confess something to you. As soon as you introduced your packing method, I adopted it as mine. And I've been telling all of my customers, I came up with it. It's my packing method. And I know it's the wrong thing to do. And I wanted to confess that to you. And, ask for you to, not forgive me, but ask, basically let you know that and to kind of apologize. I said, no apology needed. No apology needed. The reason I share this is because I want people to steal the idea. I want people to steal this idea. And if they want to claim it as their own, that's fine. If they want to give me credit, that's fine too. But if they want to claim it as their own and take care of their customers at this level, God bless them. I think it's fabulous. It's kind of like I talked about a certain automobile company that came up with something really cool and they got a patent for it, but they left it as an open patent so that someone could use the idea, the design and everything else and never pay them a penny for it. Does anyone remember me telling that story and what the company was and what they gave away for free to the world? Does anyone remember that? I wonder. Some of you probably remember it. Oops, there we go again. Something about that angle right over there. I just kind of slip off the machine a little bit. Better go from this angle. Maybe that's better. We'll try it again anyway. Oops, I had it. I lost it. Ah. All right, I'm going to cut that real quick and do that last little piece separately. Actually got it closed off anyway, but I'll just take a look at the live chat real quick after I get this anchored down and see if anybody remembered that little story that I told. And it's not just a story, it's a fact. It's a proven documented fact that this company did that. Okay, that's good. I'll stop right about there. That's perfect. I'm just going to take down that little point right there so it doesn't unravel. And then we'll go all the way around it. All right. Yeah, Al Koss is spot on. Al Koss is right. Look at what he wrote. Al Koss wrote. It was, it was Volvo. Yep, Volvo. Volvo came up with the 3.5 point, whatever the seatbelt is, the fancy seatbelt that all of us use these days, pretty much in any car, from a Rolls Royce to a Chevy, is going to have that upgraded type seatbelt. Because originally we had no seatbelts in cars, and then they added the lap belt that kind of went across your waist like this, and then they came up with the upgraded one that the Swedes came up with over in Sweden with the Volvo, and it came across your chest like this too, and it tightens when you stop quickly. Exactly right. Al Koss nailed it. They came up with that design. They could have made so much money with it, but they said safety is more important than anything. Safety and saving lives is more important than anything. So we're going to give it away to the world. Well, I haven't saved any lives with my packing method, but I know I've saved a lot of sewing machines with the packing method. So save a sewing machine, use this method, and if you want to claim it as your own, that's okay. That's totally okay. I recognize that notification. That was Emma. Let's see if Emma has a question or a comment. Would it be okay to make bubble wrap pillows? Why not? Oh, okay. She was being serious. Oh, okay. Sorry about that, Emma. I wasn't laughing at you. Would it be okay? Yeah, I was a little bit. Would it be okay to make bubble wrap pillows on the front and back and then wrap it with stretch wrap? You know what? There's nothing wrong with if you wanted to make some pre-made pillow type things on a bubble wrap that could kind of wrap around the machine. But again, the only thing you run into is the thickness factor. You'd have to gauge it. You'd have to be doing a lot of Bentwood cover packing to make it worthwhile, so that you would be able to you still get that cover over the top of the machine. So I think that's an interesting idea. But again, the space tolerance, especially on the front and on the right side of the machine, is the only areas you have to be a little bit extra careful with if you tried to pre-do something and then attach it to the machine. When we do it by hand like this, we're able to look at that layering kind of get wider and wider and wider and visibly look at that lid going over the top. So we have a little bit more control if we do it this way instead of pre-making some pillows. But why not? Give it a try and see if it's going to save time or work in a different way. And I'd be willing to consider it. I like I said, this is not the ultimate. We haven't reached the finish line with my packing method. It's very, very good. It's proven. It's gotten machines safely around the world multiple times, but it can always get better. So the pillow idea that Emma introduced just a moment ago via text, I think is something we need to look at more. And maybe she could work up something down in Florida and send me some pictures that I could share on a live stream or Facebook and say, hey, let's try this method. Let's see how it works. Let's see what outcome we get with it. Okay, so let me anchor the rest of this down. And thank you to Emma for that idea. Anchor down the rest of this with packing tape. Remember, stretch wrap never ever stands on its own. It always has to be anchored down. Always has to be anchored down. Again, we'll just kind of pat it down a little bit. And just feel it with your fingers. If you feel that exposed stretch wrap, just kind of toss a little piece of tape over it. It's all going to stick together nicely. And don't forget to do the top of it too. The top is just as important because that's all part of the same unit. You want to join it all together. Yeah, you really have to applaud the Swedes. You really have to applaud the Swedes for doing that. What an incredibly generous thing to do. I can't even imagine what they would have made off of the patents that people would have had to have paid for to use their concept and idea. Hundreds of millions of dollars, I'm sure, easily. So that feels really, it's going to kind of walk you around it real quick, kind of give you a different view of it. The front of it right there. Again, this is going to be underneath the Bentwood cover. Front of the machine. Back of the machine, kind of upside down. And then the hand crank over here. Again, you can see our clearance on this area is very, very tight. And that's why we have to be real mindful of clearance on this side and also on the front, especially up here on the upper level. So now the test. We'll get that Bentwood cover. Make sure that we can get that Bentwood cover over the top of what we've done. It's already been anchored down. It's all good to go. And because of the orientation of it, I'm not going to insult Mindy's intelligence by writing front and back on here, but we'll have to look at doing that for the Bentwood cover, so it'll be a little bit easier for her to get into it. Yeah, that looks really good. I think we did a good job with that. So now we're going to go over the Bentwood cover. And there's not a real big secret to Bentwood covers in getting them to go on, but you always want to put the right side down first, which is going to have this little piece right here that has to fit into the base. It kind of slides into there and locks in place. This little piece right here. So you always kind of tilt it up a little bit as you're getting that into place. We rock this side down, get our little key out. Isn't this a fun key? That's obviously an original key for this 1935 66K. Slide it in, get that to drop down so we can make sure we can lift this up. We know we have it all anchored together correctly. So just slid down nicely. Give that a turn. Lock it in place, just double check. Do the lift test. So we've done a really good job, I think, up to this point, and I'm going to look at our time quick. Hour and 39 minutes. I'll take us a little bit further, but I'm not going to take us all the way to the finish line, just because. And look at this, and this is the way it is. See the movement on there, and it's anchored in place right now. You saw that I lifted it up. It's anchored in place, but this is part of the reason. Now the next phase we're going to do is we're going to come over the top of this arch. We're going to come over the top of this arch, just like we did on the base, and we're going to anchor the top of the Bentwood cover to the base. Come all the way around, so I'm going to have to get a little bit creative. I'll kind of slide this off the edge like I did before, kind of like this. And now, because you can see that wiggle jiggle thing going on, There's nothing wrong with it. That's just the way it is. So we're going to stop that from getting the wiggle jiggle. I like wiggling and jiggling to music in the workshop all the time. Some of you have sent little videos to where I'm doing silly things, but we don't want wiggling and jiggling with our Bentwood cover. So we're going to come with stretch wrap, go all the way around like this, all the way around. Because now we're kind of in a sweet position. We know that we got the machine locked in there and the cover is on correctly. Now we need to anchor the top of the Bentwood cover to the base. Okay, Bentwood cover to the base. See if I come over here and maybe give you a different perspective or angle with that, hopefully. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Pretty good shot, I think. Back it up a little bit so it doesn't fall off. So now we take our stretch wrap again. Again, this is, if you joined us a little bit late, this is 80 gauge. It's strong, real strong stuff. Start right on top. We'll kind of go around like this and we'll join these two together. Yeah, I'm interested to see what Emma sends as far as her pillow idea. That's kind of clever. I like that. That's neat. And I've got that Bernina 125 waiting on the other workbench for my attention to get ready for Saturday. So if pillow idea saves me time in packing, you got my vote. All right, so we're coming across the top of here. We're going to anchor this down now. Get it nice and secure. Now we're kind of, we don't need to worry as much about space and clearance. And I'm coming over this pretty strong, quite a bit of force, anchoring it down nice and snug. But this kind of shows you the finish line for me, doesn't it? I get a machine that comes in, we do an unboxing. Eventually that machine gets on the workbench. I go through all my workshop magic, which takes anywhere from 12 to 16 plus hours. Finally, that machine is ready. We live stream that machine. The customer watches that machine with delight, doing things maybe it never did before or that they didn't know that it could do. And then the final step before I finally release that machine back to that owner is what we're doing right now today. Packing it up and getting it ready for that almost 2,000-mile journey out to Las Vegas. And then my job is done with that particular machine and I can move on to the next one. Kind of exciting, isn't it? Kind of like raising a child and they get old enough and then they finally move out and they make their own nest in a sense. Okay, so I think we've done a good job of that with the stretch wrap. Now we have to do what you already know. We have to anchor that down. Go around it probably at least 2 times. Press it in a little bit, make sure it's nice and snug. And now, I think even if I put on the best possible music, there's no wiggle jiggle. So now we've eliminated that pivoting that it was doing against the base where it potentially could have popped loose. You know what I mean? It could have popped loose. So now it's nice and secure to that base. We've joined the two together. We have to do the same thing with the other side now. And the other thing we have to do, and y'all can remind me of this. The other thing we have to do is we're gonna do the other side just like we did this. Then we have to go all the way around the bottom of the base with packing tape because right now this is not attached to this. This piece that we just added here is just sticking on there. It's not anchored. We want to anchor those two by bringing tape across and making these a single unit. You know what I mean? Right now, this is just flapping in the wind, as my father would have said. So we ultimately will go all the way around, probably 2 to 3 times, and anchor this to that, this to that. So again, if anybody wants to try to win those Guggenheim scissors that I showed, if you joined us late, see if I can get them over here. These are really, really nice scissors. I've shown them on a couple of the live streams already. If anyone wants to try to win a pair of these, brand new in the box, anytime before Saturday morning, this Saturday morning, anytime before Saturday morning, go to the description in this live stream, click the link to take you to Google reviews for Cow Country, write up a nice little review. Hopefully you give me 5 stars. I hope you will. And then you'll get entered automatically into a drawing for Saturday morning where your name, along with everybody else's name that's written a review between yesterday and Saturday morning. It's got to be before the live stream starts. Your name will go into a hat or whatever, and I'll shake it up, reach into the hat, pull out a name, and that person will win those scissors. And that's how you do it. Just write a review. It's pretty easy. Had 2 people do it yesterday. So there's 2 people entered right now. So you could be the 3rd one or the 4th one or the 5th one. And again, I'm pulling with this quite a bit of force, These Bentwood covers, if you've never seen how they're made, on the landing page of the Cow Country YouTube channel, on this YouTube channel, on the landing page, I've got a video that was shot in Scotland, and they actually show how these are made. So you'll want to check that out if you've never seen it before. Now we'll go over it with our packing tape. And packing tape is not real friendly to veneers, so just as you go around, just make sure you stay within the boundaries of the tape so that you don't stick this on the veneer. Kind of give it a little press down. Make sure it's nice and snug. You hear those little bubbles popping out? And notice no wiggle jiggle on this end either. Now it's nice and secure. You know what I mean? It's not going to be wiggling around. It's not going to be pivoting or anything like that. And now we need to go all the way around now to join these to that. All the way around. And that is the biggest part of what we have to do, other than the next phase, obviously, we'll do just like we did with the inside of the machine, where I'll take this bubble wrap, because we want to protect this Bentwood cover. This Bentwood cover is not perfect. It shows that it's had a life. It shows that it has some wear on the back of it, where there's some compromise to the veneer. We don't want it to get any more punch throughs or any damage to it or anything like that. So out here, I'll probably do 5, maybe 6 layers bubble wrap going around the entire Bentwood cover. And then on the bottom, we'll probably do either additional bubble wrap, or I might do the pool noodles. You've seen me do that before, where on the pool noodles, let me grab one of those. I believe the first one to do this with pool noodles, not in this way, but in some way, was Emma. Emma was, I believe, the first one that when she shipped her 222K featherweight free arm from the Florida area all the way up to Oconto, she had little sections of a pool noodle like this covering the upper tension and a number of other things. And then as I thought more about the protection that this affords, you know, from a cushion standpoint, I started adopting her idea and using it on the bottom of the machines and other things like that to give it a real nice cushy ride. Again, like anything, you have to watch out for vertical clearance then, because you can do a great job of packing a Bentwood cover like this, but if you push it from the bottom up too high and it doesn't have enough of a cushion of protection up here, if someone all of a sudden hits that top of the container real hard, that container will flex and could compromise, you know, the integrity of the Bentwood cover. So what I'll probably do with this is I'll cut the appropriate length for the length of the Bentwood cover right about there, and then I'll bisect this so it's half the thickness, so it doesn't push this Bentwood cover up too high towards the top of the container. You know what I mean? I think we'll be in really good shape. Matter of fact, for curiosity, why don't we see, with the current profile, nothing underneath here, we're not going to ship it that way, obviously, but with the current profile, how much vertical clearance above do we have? Maybe we'll end up being able to go with a solid piece instead of cutting, you know, bisecting it in half. Let's see what we have. This is just a mammoth container. I just can't get over how big this container is. It's ridiculous. I'll show it to you again if you joined us a little bit late. This is the typical container that I'll use even when I shipped a fall 332 over to Switzerland, all the way to Switzerland. I used an 18-gallon tote like this all the way to Switzerland, but it wasn't in a Bentwood cover, obviously. So we can't use an 18-gallon tote for Mindy's machine with a Bentwood cover. We've got to go all the way to this 34-gallon tote. Look at the two comparatively if you join late. It's almost silly, isn't it? It's like, when is this one going to grow up? When is it going to grow up? It's just huge, just mammoth. Look at the inside container of that. It's just ridiculous. And that's where USPS, the Postal Service, won't even ship a container of this size priority mail. They'll only ship it ground, only ship it by ground mail. So let me grab the Bentwood cover case like it is right now. I'll slide it in there, and then I'll take the camera and show you what we're working with. Oh, you're going to be able to use a whole one. I didn't realize it was that far down. We've got a lot of vertical clearance. A ton. And I looked at all the containers real carefully to see what options I had for Mindy's machine. You can see we'll add quite a few layers, probably about out to there. And we'll still have a cushion of protection on the left side over here. We got a lot of clearance on the front and back of it as well. So the bubble wrap is not going to encroach in any way. Same thing on this side, plenty of room, which is why I picked this container. And then if we use those pool noodles, it's going to push it up, probably even a solid one's going to push it up about 3 inches. Imagine this handle is down, because it would be. You know, it's going to raise it up to probably about there, something like that. It's kind of heavy to lift with my left arm. So we're going to be able to use a solid pool noodle. We're not even going to have to bisect it. And it's only going to push this container up to right about here, which is still going to give us a cushion of protection between the edge of the lid, where the lid is going to go on. It's still going to give us about 3 to 4 inches of clearance, even with a solid pool noodle on the bottom of this container. So that's what we'll do. We'll go with a solid one because it's going to afford even more cushion, afford even more protection. as this is making that 2,000, almost 2,000 mile journey out to Las Vegas, Nevada. So I think what I'll do at this point, if all of you are okay with it, I'm going to look at the live chat, take you through this next phase. You've already seen me go through that phase with a machine on the inside, where I'll go with stretch wrap all the way around the Bentwood portion to protect the wood, and then I'll put bubble wrap around here, probably about 5 to 6 layers, and then we'll add this pool noodle in either 2 or 4 sections. I'm still debating how I want to do it. I'm probably going to go 4 sections. I'm going to put one across the front and the back like that. And then I'm going to cut another one that will go and support this side and the other side independently. So we're basically going to have 4 pool noodles, 2 longer ones across the front and back, and then 2 that run across like this on either side. So it'll have independent suspension against the bottom of that tote as it's getting bounced along for 2,000 miles. And this will all get anchored in place. Once we get the bubble wrap around, we obviously always follow up bubble wrap with stretch wrap to tuck it in nice and tight to the Bentwood cover. Then we go over that with packing tape. And then we'll slide it into that container that you just saw, that huge mammoth size container. And then we'll fill around this with a field of packing peanuts to create a little shield of protection around the wood cup, about this much bubble wrap around it, probably about 2 inches, 2.5 inches of bubble wrap. So I think we're going to have a really great scenario to ensure that as this priceless 66K hand crank from 1935, as it begins that 2,000 mile journey, nearly 2,000 mile journey, those people at UPS, which is how I'm going to be sending this, they can be as mad as they want to be mad that day. They can be angry. They can kick that container if they want. I'm not encouraging them to do that, but this is going to be so well fortified. It's going to be so well protected that it'll be able to take an incredibly high level of abuse, and it'll arrive safely to Mindy out in Las Vegas. That's it. I could show you the rest of the steps, but I'm not gonna drag it out, because you can visualize exactly what you saw me do on the inside. We're going to be doing it now on the outside, and then getting it safely into that tote. And then y'all have seen that I've added these zip ties, where for this big tote, I'll actually take the lid and I'll actually use a drill, and I'll drill in at key points and zip tie it. And then over the top of that, I do stretch wrap to anchor the lid to the base. And then I go over it with packing tape to anchor everything together. Put the label on, take it down to Bay Impressions in Oconto. And Laurel and her colleague, Carly, will go ahead and put it on the scale. I already know how much it's going to cost to ship this. Does anyone want to guess how much it's going to cost to ship this huge container, this 34-gallon container? How much it's going to cost to ship this Bentwood out to Mindy in Las Vegas? Anyone want to guess? Type an amount in the live chat if you want to guess as to the cost. Then I'll actually show you the. Yeah. Well, wait a second. Did they write that down for me? I think they did. Maybe on the back of here. I thought Laurel and Carly wrote it down. Maybe I'm looking at the wrong slip. I bet you I am. At any rate, I can see if you want to guess what it'll cost to ship this in that huge container. How much it'll cost to ship this in that huge container out to Las Vegas by UPS. See if you can guess. Oh wow, Al and Emma are like blowing me away. You guys are so smart. I say it all the time. You guys are like geniuses. You guys are literally geniuses. Amazing guesses. Wow, holy mackerel. Well, I'll show you first of all the reason that I did not go with I usually always use UPS, or excuse me, I always use USPS, is what I wanted to say. I almost always use USPS when I'm shipping, even when I shipped to Switzerland, when I shipped, remember that Swedish Beauty that we did, and I shipped it back to the fella in London, England? I used USPS International for that as well, and shipped it back that way. I can't do it this time domestically because the rate that USPS came up with to ship that by ground, they won't even ship it by priority because the dimensions are apparently too big. This is what they came up with for USPS. Show that to you like that. I think it's on the bottom. Isn't it like $234 with insurance? $234 with insurance. That's the same that it cost me to ship that that Swedish Beauty back to Adam over in London, England. And we're talking about just shipping it about 2,000 miles to Las Vegas. So my friends at USPS, they just said, we understand this is crazy. But Al Koss and Emma were right on target. The reason that I chose UPS in this instance, let me just look at this carefully. I thought she wrote it down on here for me. Oh, I see what she did. Duh. Laurel and Carly that worked up the rate for UPS for me, they wrote it on the bottom of the USPS receipt. So if you look at the bottom, it's written kind of small. But you'll see on the left side, it has UPS, it has a certain rate, and then it has FedEx with a certain rate. Actually, I'm wrong. I'm not going to be shipping at UPS. I'm totally wrong. I'm going to be shipping it by FedEx because when you look at this, you'll see that FedEx beat UPS by like $12. I think it was by $12 or something like that. But look at how close Al and Emma were to the actual shipping price. But if you look at those prices, again, I always try to save. If I can save my customers money, I'll save them money. Look at those prices by FedEx and UPS compared to what the Postal Service wanted. Postal Service with insurance wanted like $230, $234. So I can get this out to Mindy by FedEx. I can't read upside down for about $138, $140 with tax or whatever it would be. So in this instance, I'm going to be shipping this Bentwood to Las Vegas by FedEx because they're going to be able to, I don't make any money on the shipping. They're going to be able to save my customer, like, what would that be? 234 minus $140, like almost $100. They're going to be able to save Mindy, also known as Super B. They're going to be able to save Mindy like $100 in shipping. So in this case, I've got to bow to FedEx and say, all right, you got the job. You got the job because I'm not gonna ship it by USPS if it's going to be $100 more for my customer. And I think I built a little bit into the shipping just because I had to pay like $20 for that huge container. So I kind of built that into the cost for Mindy a little bit so I could offset my cost in buying that specialized container. I mean, I gotta cover my cost, right? So I don't think that's unreasonable. So in the end, it's going to cost Mindy probably like around $150 as far as the shipping, compared to $234 if we shipped with USPS. So yeah, it is what it is, right? It's a cost of doing business. So, but at any rate, I appreciate everybody being a part of this. I didn't plan it until this morning, so I'm going to finish this process. I don't know if I'll get there before they close today, but I should be able to get the packing done, and then I could take it to Bay Impressions tomorrow. I think the weather is going to be a little bit better tomorrow anyway, so I'll be able to get it over to them. And when I already walked in once with this container. And they just looked at it like, holy cow, what are you shipping, a child? Are you going to cut air holes in the lid or something like that? I said, no, I'm shipping a sewing machine, you silly people. You know what I do. But yeah, this is a monster. It's a monster of a container. I didn't show you guys the dimensions. If you're dimensionally oriented, you can look at the dimensions here, get an idea of, if you can't look at it comparatively with this 18-gallon tote, you go look at the dimensions and envision just how huge this thing is. It's ridiculous. So yeah, I think it's the biggest container I've ever shipped. I believe it is the biggest container that I've ever shipped. Well, that's not true. Now that I think about it, I'll take that back. Many years ago, I was involved in doing restorative work, not only with sewing machines, but I also had customers sending me the treadle bases. If you can imagine the treadle bases with the treadle in the machine, in the base. I told them to ship them separately. Some people would do that. Other people, they were just, it's too much work. So they would ship the treadle machine separately and or with the base. And then I would layer by layer on those. If you know what those treadle bases are like, they put layer after layer after layer of veneer. It's like 12 to 14 layers, if I remember right. And I had a customer that from UPS shipped me the entire treadle from an island. I didn't know there were islands off of New York. Did anyone else know that there were islands off of New York? This lady lived on an island off of New York, and she commissioned UPS to crate this up and ship the entire crate with the treadle machine and the treadle base as well. And then I had to go through painstakingly and do layer after layer after layer after layer after layer after layer and re-glue them and then, varnish or whatever. And it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare. I decided then that I was not into furniture. And there are people that love doing that. Like our friend down in Texas. You might remember that machine I did. I did the beautiful machine head for Ross. You guys remember Ross? If you don't remember Ross, type into the little search thing on the front of the YouTube channel, type in Ross, and it'll pull up that machine. And what we were doing as a partnership, he down in Texas was doing that part that I don't really like. He was doing the base for this treadle machine for a very exclusive customer in Texas. They were real fancy folks down in Texas, and he did the base. I did the machine head. And he only recently, tells you what a pain in the neck it is. He sent me a text because he had a question about hardware for the treadle base. It was missing something. And I pointed him to the site so he could get the rocker arm that he needed for the treadle, blah, blah, blah. And he only recently finished that table. And then he took that beautiful machine that I did and he married it up with the base. And he's promised to send me pictures. If he does, I'll share them on Facebook. Where you can finally see my work and his work down below, and how, who knows how far we are apart from each other down to Texas, but we work together from a couple thousand miles apart or whatever it is, 1,000 miles plus. And now he's got a very happy customer that I'll never meet. I've never met him, never will. And that's where he can take his work and my work and say, hey, look at what I did. And if they love him for it, more power to them. That's great. That's cool. Well, God bless you guys. I'll see you hopefully on Saturday. And remember, if you want to try to win these Guggenheim scissors that are valued at around $50, and I'll ship them anywhere in the world. Anywhere in the world, I'll ship them. If you want to try to win these, go to the description after the live stream, click on the link, write up a nice review for Cow Country on Google, post it. As long as it gets posted before Saturday morning, then your name will get entered into a drawing and you can try to win these. I've already got 2 entries, but I'd like to have more just so I don't reach into the hat and I'm kind of reaching around and there's only 2 pieces of paper. It's like a 50-50. So yeah, give me more options, would you, please? All right. Well, I'm going to get back to work. And Again, I probably won't get this shipped today, but I'm gonna finish my magic of packing it. You kind of having a visual of what I'm gonna be doing, and then we'll get this by tomorrow. We'll get this heading towards Las Vegas so that Mindy can spend about an hour and a half, I'm guessing, probably about an hour and 30 minutes unpacking everything that we just packed and all that I'm going to be packing afterwards. So, but y'all take care, and I'll hopefully see you all Saturday morning. Yeah. And like Al Koss said, he was the first one to pop on this live stream. I think he said something like, "What a surprise! What a surprise!" And I didn't tell anyone, not even my leadership team. I didn't tell anyone that I was going to do this because it's really a benefit. More so, I mean, it could be a benefit to all of you too, for sure. It can be a benefit to anyone that's watching right now, but even more so to the people that are going to look this video up later underneath that playlist of how to pack, blah, blah, blah. And they're going to say, I wondered what you do if you have a Bentwood cover. It's a tricky thing. And Scott showed us now, pretty much everything that you need to do to get that Bentwood cover case either to Las Vegas or to, I think the furthest we've ever shipped is Japan. I shipped a machine a number of years ago to Japan to a gentleman that was serving in the Air Force over there. I think that's the furthest I think that's further. Japan from Okanto to Japan. Yeah, that's further even than the UK. That's got to be further. Probably like 6,000 miles or something like that. So yeah, we continue to improve it. And who knows, maybe at some point we'll do pillows like Emma proposed. You never know, right? Take care, everybody. I'll do the countdown thing and we'll wrap this up. Countdown. All right, here's our countdown. I better center it on the singer. Someone's going to write me a note and say, why didn't you center it? Why didn't you center it on the singer? Why didn't you do that? What's wrong with you, Scott? You're getting loosey, buddy. All right. Well, thank you. And I don't know. I don't know if we had any leadership team members. Yeah, we had Emma. I think Emma was the only leader, the only moderator in this live stream today. So if I missed another leader, please forgive me. But thank you to Emma for kind of taking care of the family. And Emma is busy with her family right now. So she really is sacrificing some time away from her family to be with our family here. So thank you to her for doing that. And thank you for the pillow idea as well. At any rate, blah, 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 blah. I better get ready to hit the button because we have like 5 seconds. 5 seconds. Ah! See you on Saturday morning. Take care. Bye.